And so then when I reached out and you guys were just this 90 days, which was super appealing because again, it wasn't like this 12-month long or whatnot. I just did it and we literally, I think, and I've told you this, that one of my favorite things with you guys was that we didn't necessarily like implement this new system or all these new procedures or give me scripts of what to say. You literally took what I was doing, which was good stuff, and just fine tune it and tweak it to make it even better. And that's where literally it's been a game changer for the last 4 years.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Informed Chiropractor. I'm Dr. Don McDonald, your host, and today I'm heading over to Bolton, Ontario in Canada with Dr. Ali Miller. She's our guest today. She's a graduate of CMCC in 2002. She's done her ICPA training, and she's an amazing, awesome chiropractor. And I just wanted to, we were chatting in Calgary at the CNAC conference, the yearly conference, and I was like, I got to get you on the call. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited.
That's awesome. So, like I like to start all our episodes, I just want to know, how did you get into this profession in the first place? Like, what was it that interested you?
You know what? It was, I was not a chiropractic patient as a kid, so it was never, I don't have one of those amazing stories that goes way back. I was in high school, I guess, and my mom was actually suffering from lots of migraines and kind of had hit the end of the wall or the last hope, I guess, so to speak. And finally, her doctor or somebody told her to try out a chiropractor. And so she went and she saw some amazing changes and I saw them too, right? I mean, it wasn't like she was a bad mom before, but I do remember, having to be on her bed, kind of asleep or take days off or just feeling miserable. And then I saw this transition and this transformation of all of a sudden, she was feeling well and that wasn't putting her flat on her back on her bed for days at a time. And so that kind of piqued my interest. And then I did my undergrad in science and kind of was looking to see what I wanted to do next. And I had looked into, occupational therapy and chiropractic and all these different things. And I went to visit a chiropractor and literally everyone I saw, they told me how much they loved what they did and they had a great quality of life. And so I applied and here I am.
There it is, bada bing, bada boom. How old were you when your mom went to the chiropractor?
I probably was like maybe 15, 16, somewhere around there.
Okay, cool. So that kind of was just kind of stayed in the back of your mind, and then
In the back of my mind, but literally when I even had applied to CMCC, I still had never even been adjusted myself.
oh wow.
And yeah, and then I went to go visit one chiropractor as I was kind of prepping and shadowing and getting ready for my interview. And then he said to me, he said, have you ever been adjusted? And I said, no. And he said, well, you better get on the table. And so I did, and the rest is history.
That is awesome. And so, when you're deciding to pick a school, what kind of, because actually, did you know anybody in chiropractic at all, or are you just like
Really?
straight cold right into the profession? So
Yeah.
probably location then, right? That's probably what.
I just, I'm from Ontario, so Toronto was, just a short drive away. And so I applied here, not even really knowing what else was out there. And,
Mhm.
uh, and yeah.
That's awesome. And so, when you started school, how was that experience when you got to CMCC and kind of you get into that first year where it's like super science heavy, and
So
how was that
actually,
for
so I literally got home from my honeymoon on the Sunday night and I started school Monday morning.
you? Jeez.
Yeah. So it was a bit of a whirlwind. So actually, when I got into school, my wedding was actually supposed to be later. And then when I got into school, we had to bump it up so that I could actually kind of still have a honeymoon and get back. So I was one of the bit of an anomaly already going into school. I was still like super young, but I got married pretty young. So I was balancing even that, right? Kind of, the school piece and, in a brand new marriage and, friends and still having fun. So it was, I look back and I kind of think, oh my goodness, that was a bit crazy, but it all worked.
And how was school for you? Like, because I know right now, in chiropractic, we always have the pain-based chiropractic, and then we have more of the vitalistic, subluxation, neurologically focused chiropractors. Were you even aware of that in school? Like, how did you kind of get introduced to that kind of duality in the profession?
I think when I was there, my time at CMCC was still we had a pretty good, there was a strong core principled group of chiropractors. So when I was there in first year, James Chestnut was still in school in fourth year. John Minardi was just ahead of me. Lawrence Tam, Jamie Richards, like they were in my class. So we had a pretty strong, I guess, group right from the get-go. Still had those extra clubs that came into CMCC. So I remember the Pediatric Club and Liz Anderson Peacock coming in and like learning all this stuff. I did the ICPA modules while I was still in school. So I think I just got exposed to the real chiropractic pretty early on, and that part resonated with me, and I just kind of carried through. I was also I had a baby between second and third year, and so I know, yeah. So it's been a crazy story, but I had a baby, and so again, I had the exposure to like midwifery and just a natural birth, and then pediatric chiropractic. And literally my daughter came into technique class and she came to Peds Club. So it was all in there right from the get-go.
And did you say you had the baby right between the years?
Yep.
So were you like
very well timed?
Very ninja planner. Holy smokes.
Yeah, very ninja planner, and I've got a sharpshooter as a husband.
Oh, jeez, yeah. That's awesome. How was that for you? Because being a new mom, and did you have any kind of postpartum, or did you have any challenges in that realm while you were in school, or were you pretty good?
No, I think, I didn't know any different, right? It was the first one, so I think I was thrown into it. I had great support systems, like the school itself, was really good with me. The way my year fell, it was right when the curriculum at CMCC changed the next year. So I didn't have an option to kind of take a break or a year off in between, but they were really great with her coming to class. I had lots of great classmates that, let's say when I was in technique, they would keep her and then we would switch off. Oh my goodness, I had profs that carried her at the front of the class while we wrote exams. Like it was pretty good. She was a very well adaptable baby.
Wow, that's cool. So you kind of learned how it takes a community to raise a child like firsthand.
For
how
sure.
old were you about that time?
I was 20, so I was 25 when I had her.
Yeah. Holy smokes. Yeah, that's crazy. And so so you get through school and you have a baby and you graduate, and what did you decide to do after that? Did you associate or open up right off the bat, or?
No, so right as soon as I graduated, we had baby number 2, and then I took a little bit of a breather, right, just to kind of like actually, be a mom and enjoy these 2 littles.
Yeah.
And then I joined another office, so I went to practice with another chiropractor, just as an independent contractor, and it was great. It kind of let me see, parts of the business that I didn't know. It also showed me parts of the practice that I didn't want to have. I was there not even a year, and then I decided to open up on my own.
Cool. And so had you been entrepreneurial in the past, or were your parents, or?
My parents, my dad was, so I think maybe that was always in me, that I was going to be my own boss one day and have the flexibility. Yeah, it was great. Again, I worked really closely, partnered up with a massage therapist in town. And so she definitely helped build, I'd say, my practice at the very get-go. Super helpful in those first, formative years, because I had these 2 little ones. Then I had a third daughter. So at the beginning, it was great to kind of have other people to help me as well.
Yeah. So when you had your third daughter, how far in practice were you?
2 years. 2 years.
2 years. So how was that? Like how was that when you're already a mom of 2, and then you just have a baby and you're just starting to grow your practice? Did you have like a locum come in and cover for you, or what did you do for that process? And how much time did you take off work?
So I did have, so that third baby actually came 22 days early. So I had arranged for a locum, and the locum was supposed to come and we were going to do that, they observe for like 1 week with you there adjusting. And then the second week they're there and they adjust while you're there. And then the third week she would have been off and running. Yeah. And well, that didn't happen because the baby came so early. So literally the Monday that she was supposed to come shadow, I was like, okay, you're in, because I'm out. And so I think I took 6 weeks off completely that the locum was there.
Yeah.
And then I went back in, and again, the baby came with me for a little bit at the beginning, where we would just kind of block time that I would be able to, feed the baby or get her settled. But again, it was the community, right? It was the community around me, patients holding her, my team holding her, whatever we did to make it work.
And so if you had like we have lots of female chiropractors in our group and stuff, and so if they were planning on having babies and stuff, like looking back on that, would you have any recommendations or any things that you're glad you did it that way, or you wish you did it slightly different, or
No,
what?
I mean, everyone's different and what works
Yeah,
for them. But no, if I could do it all again, I would do it this way. I mean, I had all my kids really young. I had them early, before practice and early in practice. So, I'm not even 50, and yet my youngest is already at university, right? So it's a whole other world where now I'm going to get to really enjoy time with them all essentially gone. But, it's one of those things where I think we can always try and plan for the right time, but there isn't a right time, right? You kind of have to jump in with 2 feet on buying a house or getting married or having a baby. If you want to do it, it will all work out. You just have to kind of jump.
that's so true, because if you actually figured out all the possible things that could go wrong, you probably just never do anything.
Yeah, exactly. You'd be frozen.
You just be like, forget it, that's crazy. And so throughout practice, as you grew your practice, did you kind of go through stages? Did you get kind of mentoring along the way? Like how did that go through like the first 10, 15 years or so in practice?
Yeah, for sure. I think, I've always kind of worked with different coaches or mentors, which has always been important to me right from the get-go. I'm a big sports fan, so I believe in kind of
Got
coaching and having somebody help you out along the way. You can't do it by yourself. And I remember early on, I was working with a coach once, and he kind of commented that, my practice was a bit of a hobby. And in some ways, you could take that offensively, but I don't, because in reality, it was a little bit true. My
Yeah.
husband's a corporate guy, so he's always kind of been, his schedule is a lot less flexible and more travel and kind of longer hours. And so when our kids were little, they were my priority, and the practice was there, but it wasn't necessarily my
Like main
number one.
focus.
It
Totally.
wasn't my main focus, not at all.
Yeah.
And I mean, but at the beginning, I mean, it always sustained itself, right? Like I paid my bills, and we had extra to kind of, go on vacation, and I took care of myself, and I was able to balance and raise my girls and still get to Christmas concerts and all that kind of stuff. So it really worked for me for probably that good 10 years. And then as
Mhm.
my kids got bigger and they were in school full time, I could start to put more focus into the practice. And that's where I kind of started to see that growth really change and grow. And then in the last, 5, 6 years is where it's exponentially kind of exploded.
That's really cool. And so that kind of brings us up to that. It was right around COVID, right? And we
Yeah.
we do so when we offer coaching, just for people out there, we don't do long-term coaching. We just like to do 90 days as kind of short, sweet, get at it and go implement it and go at it. And so it's funny because Ali hadn't really been in our program before, and she just reached out to do the 90-day program. And I think you said at the beginning, like you really didn't even necessarily want to grow. You just wanted to what was your kind of your motivation at the beginning? Because it wasn't like you needed to grow. Like,
No, I think,
yeah,
I was thinking about that earlier today. What made me even reach out to you guys?
yeah,
I think, coming out of COVID, I think all of us were a little bit just defeated and deflated in different ways. And
yeah.
so I think I needed something to kind of maybe build me back up or bring back some passion for practice, or ignite something that I was missing or had missed in that time. And so then when I reached out and you guys were just this 90 days, which was super appealing, because again, it wasn't like this 12-month long or whatnot. I just did it, and we literally, I think, and I've told you this, that one of my favorite things with you guys was that we didn't necessarily like implement this new system or all these new procedures or give me scripts of what to say. You literally took what I was doing, which was good stuff, and just fine tune it and tweak it to make it even better. And that's where literally it's been a game changer for the last 4 years.
Well, and it's funny because we were talking to you in Calgary, and I hadn't had a chance to talk to you since then. And kind of some of the chiropractors we work with in the past, one of the things they did like about it is that if you can kind of keep what you're doing that's working really well, and then just amplify it a little bit extra, then you can keep the momentum going in the future. And so it was cool to hear that it's like 4 or 5 years later, and you're like, that was the game changer.
For sure.
to move things forward. So what were a couple things that you did, whether it was a tweak a mindset or tweak a procedure, that just helped you kind of move the needle?
They're really funny because as I was thinking about those, they're pretty simple. So, someone listening might be like, oh my goodness, why didn't she just do that before? But like anything, right? Sometimes we just have this block or you just think it's going to be more work than it is. As my practice had always been, my retention was always very good, right? Like I've been able to keep patients in my community for 10, 15, 20 years, but my new patients were always like not huge. And so one of the things that I had always kind of dabbled in was like a VIP pass that you give out, on during your day 2 or and I'd kind of given them out, but never like consistently. I know that you guys just said, why? Like, why aren't you giving them out? And so literally it took me nothing to, order from Canva or Vistaprint or wherever I got them and ordered, 500 of them. And literally I just made it a thing to give out, 2 of those every single report, and boom, like all of a sudden your new patients it's easy, right? Like those people are sitting right in front of you. So if it's a mom that's brought her kid in, of course we can say like, we take care of moms or these are the benefits. But when you hand them the pass and you say, listen, you're bringing them anyway, you can use this for you. And they're like, oh, okay. And they just went out to the front and booked it.
Yes, that's cool. And it's funny because I find like a lot of times if you do a coaching program and it makes you change all of your procedures, sometimes it just gets you off track. And so I find you almost need, that's what I think we really try to do, is find what that linchpin is. Like if you've been in practice, especially for like 5-10 years, there's usually just one little tweak or one little add or one little takeaway that just makes the difference. And it's funny how just something as simple as that.
It was so easy. Like literally you're doing the report anyways. I just had to hand them these 2 little cards in addition to what I was already giving them. And now all of a sudden, the whole family's under care. Yeah.
That's good. Was there anything else that you kind of had tweaked as far as mindset goes
I think there was, I've always paid attention to like numbers and stats, and I've known, how many visits a week or a month or my OVA and PVA and those kinds of things. Yeah. But a little bit, you guys just had me thinking more. I remember I would have to kind of send you the end of the week. I would have to send you what the numbers were for that current week that just finished, new patients and day 2s. And then, how many new patients were coming in to make sure that those new patients that were early in the week, that they were getting their reports before the end of the week. And just let's say if 220 patients are booked for next week, and then at the end of the next week, there's only 200 that came. Well, what happened? Like, where did we kind of lose? So it was this, again, small detail that seems to have carried through 5 years later or 4 years later and made huge difference.
Well, and I think sometimes it's just having that constant focus just to bring it back to the present moment, because it's easy to just get distracted if you stop paying attention to some of those metrics and then just kind of get busy, distracted with the rest of the life's things. So it's funny how just that little extra attention to detail just makes a big difference, eh?
Yeah. And I think, even my CA that kind of tracks it for me and then sends it to me in a message, like she sees it, right? So she'll wonder like, wait a second, why is this week like this? Or what happened? And then, so it's even conscious for her and then for me. And it literally takes me, 10 seconds to kind of open up that message and just kind of look at it and see what happened or see what's coming and to think about it.
Well, I would say it's kind of like anytime you're on a journey, you should periodically look at the road ahead and see what's coming up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or you might not get there.
No.
Now, something else that you have had a focus on lately is you've been doing a lot of work with the CNAC. So I was wondering if maybe you could tell the listeners a little bit about what your role is and kind of a little bit about what CNAC is trying to do for chiropractors, especially in Canada.
Sure. So this, of course, our new national association literally launched, I believe, just before COVID. It was wonderful timing.
Yeah, totally.
So then early in 2020, David Fletcher actually reached out to me and he kind of said, I think this would be a great role for you to be, kind of a representative for Ontario. And I think, well, I don't know if everyone would happen, but for me, for sure, you have a little bit of this imposter syndrome, right? Where you're like thinking, me, like on this national association, like who knows who I am, knows my name, what am I going to bring to it? But I threw my name in there anyways. And then I got to meet all of you wonderful people that kind of had started it all off. And it's been a great, again, 4 years or whatever it's been since then. But it's amazing to kind of work alongside all these chiropractors across our country who are just like literally selfless human beings that are kind of donating their time. Nobody's making any money. We're spending our own money on things, and we're doing it strictly to try and, bring together more chiropractors in Canada, make sure that chiropractic is around for a lifetime, that it's neurologically focused, that is for people of all ages. And that's what we want for our own practices, but we have to be thinking bigger picture. And so we're thinking that for all the chiropractors all across our country, so that can just continue forever.
And it was, you guys did a great job in that the seminar in Calgary. Maybe just let the listeners know how that went for that was the second. Was that second?
That was the second in-person one. Yeah. So, it's chiropractors are an interesting bunch because, when I talk to other chiropractors and they belong maybe to their provincial associations or a national association, and everyone's always wondering, I guess, what their membership's going to give them, what their dollar value is going to give them. And so if we, it's not expensive. Literally, I think if you work it out, it's like 10 adjustments over the year, pretty much, that it costs you to be a member. So, I mean, if you're looking just strictly at dollar value of what you're getting back, you're getting that, right? You're getting that in continuing ed, things that we offer, or in, a CFIB membership, or those kinds of perks from different things. But yes, once a year we do this fall conference. We switch sides of the country. So last year we did in Toronto, and then this past fall we went out to Calgary, and then next fall we're coming back to Toronto. And it's a great, day and a half event with great speakers. We get to be in a room full of wonderful chiropractors, lots of great hugs. We learn great stuff. This year in Calgary, we had Dr. Tim Young. He came up for the States from his first time in Canada to do 2 one-day adjusting seminars, which were absolutely fantastic. We had lots of great people on the stage. I think it's a great event. The feedback we always get is amazing. We just need to get more butts in those seats of chiropractors to actually get off their couches and go somewhere to do something.
Well, and I think too, is we also have to ask ourselves as chiropractors, not so much what are we going to get for the money that we invest in it. It's more like, what are we going to do to preserve our style of chiropractic care? Because there are factions of the profession that want to eliminate anything to do with non-symptom based middle-aged adjusting or whatever, so that it's very limited in what we can do. And so I think it's super important, whether, in whatever country you're in, is always to find where is that subluxation vitalistic group, and the ones that are doing all the selfless work. If you're not putting in all your time, then the next thing you have is you have money. Yeah,
so exactly. And I mean, with more members and with more money, then there's more things that can be done, right? There's more, whether or not we do campaigns out there or advertisements for our form of neurologically focused chiropractic care that can be done, but we can't do that when there's, 200 people that are part of it.
Do you guys have a month range for when the next live event in Toronto will be?
Yeah, I think we even have the date. I believe it's November. It's the third weekend in November, 2025. Perfect. So November 14th to 16, 15 to 17, whatever that weekend is.
All right. And people can still come if they're not in Canada, right? They can still come if they're not Canadian?
Of course. Yeah, they can come. And like I said, it's great people. We usually try and back it up with, the Sunday. The first year in Toronto, we had Monica Berger did the Sunday. This year we had Tim Young do it. So we try and bring in someone that's not here all the time so that we get to hear different people and, learn from them and get great information. But students, we try and get lots of students, and then chiropractors, and from all over the place.
That's awesome. Thank you very much for being on the podcast. That's good. I always like people to leave with what is any kind of words of wisdom for a chiropractor that might be just driving to work or working out at the gym, or what kind of things have inspired you in the past, just to leave people with.
You know what? I think it's a lot about, I think sometimes chiropractors are always looking for, this magic recipe or something better. And so they try a new program, or they try this new technique, or they try a new coach. And, it's within us. We were called to this profession because we have something inside of us that's special to give. And sometimes it's literally maybe just jumping in and trying something new, or working with somebody that's just going to finally tune something or tweak something. Because even the changes I've seen in the 3 years, those procedures were already somewhere in there, right? I had dabbled in them. I am the same chiropractor, but I just found it in me to kind of do something new, to now obviously see more people and to make more of a bigger impact on the community.
Yeah, it's funny because you have all the pieces of the puzzle. Sometimes they just need to be lined up. They need to be adjusted.
Exactly.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay. And everybody else, hope you guys are all doing great. And we will see you again in a couple of weeks.